Welcome back to Mark Holubit's Vlog, everyone. Thanks for joining along with me on this beautiful wintry afternoon. Today is a weekend day, and I'm going to share with you what that's kind of about. A couple of things that I have planned today, and even more specifically, guys, shh. But I have the key to the Mercedes, the C-Class, my wife's new car. That's right. And I haven't been spending a lot of time in this car because she usually uses it, and I've got my own vehicles to drive around in. But from a Jaguar F-Type owner's perspective, I'm going to take her car out and I'm going to give you a sneak preview on what the car is like, comparing it to the F-Type vaguely. Of course, it's two entirely different vehicles, but let's take it out for a drive, talk about some of the weird things or different things, maybe some things that are better in the Benz than the F-Type, and other things maybe that the F-Type does better. So we're going to do that, but I also want to take the car for a bit of a wash, and I'm going to take you to one of my favorite greasy food stops that I like to go to once in a while when you just really need that real good fix of greasy eats. So let's go, let's check the car out and give it a start. But before we get started, let's talk about the comment for today, and that is here, check it out. And it's by Randall Hughesby. Good morning, Mark. Great outlook on life. Keep up the good work. Spring will soon be here, where us Canadian gearheads can get out and enjoy the open roads with our favorite rides. And us farmers can enjoy the smell of fresh turned soil. It's the simple things, really. So thanks a lot, Randall. Great comment. I really do appreciate it. And a lot of that staying positive is referencing my last video. If you guys saw, it really is about staying positive, rising above, taking the high road, not the low road. There's lots of negativity out there, and there's lots of people that want to ride in the alleys and the dark spaces of society. So you don't want to be part of that. Stay positive. There's lots of good things in this world to focus on too. But as far as your comment goes, Randall, I mean, yes, absolutely. Look, we've got a lot of snow. I suspect we've still got a fair amount of winter ahead of us yet. We're kind of rolling into the end of January. So here in Canada, where we're at, typically we can expect probably another 2 months or so of snow on the ground. And then after that, we start getting more melting. Although this winter's actually been very, very nice. So really no complaints from that perspective. And I really shouldn't complain. I wouldn't complain anyhow. But you're right. Can't wait to get the toys back on the road. As far as that smell of the fresh soil, being a farmer, many people who know me and where I come from, I actually come from a farming background. My mother was born in a little town just east of the Alberta-Saskatchewan border, and my dad was born just about an hour north of Saskatoon. And of course, I was born in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and I've spent summer upon summer heaving square bales with my uncles, spending time on the farm, butchering chickens, doing all kinds of chores around the farm. But the farm life is very simple, productive, and down-to-earth way of life. And I really, really do enjoy every moment I spent on the farm. We moved to the big city. Things changed a little bit. My parents came here for work, and that's why we're here. But let's head out on the drive. Okay, and the C300, like we see here, obviously isn't the best competitor when we talk about comparisons to the F-Type R. Huge difference. Obviously, two entirely different cars, but there is some comparisons that you can make. They're both coupes, they're both all-wheel drive, and essentially they're both import vehicles. So there is some comparison to be made, so we'll do that now. Now, what I'll say is with this car here, it's not the direct competitor. The one that you would compare it with is the C63S AMG. Those have 500 horsepower twin-turbo V8 engines. That would be a lot better comparison to the F-Type R, but for all intents and purposes, let's do a comparison between this, and we'll go for a drive here right away. One thing that I noticed about this car, it has where you can use your foot to open the trunk. And I find half the time it doesn't even work. See, like that. So how much did it take to actually do that? It wasn't like a really quick, intuitive thing, right? What is kind of cool, you can lock this manually, but basically close the door on that. So again, trying it again, it's kind of not the best. Like I can dance around and there, see, nope. There, see, now it works. So as you can see, that's something that's kind of a little bit flaky. Maybe there's some adjustment. I'll have to check on that. The F-Type doesn't have that, but it does have the little rubberized button underneath but the F-Type has the little rubberized button to hit there, and then it lifts up automatically. A little bit different. Then we move around. And then the other thing, talking about these cars, there's a lot of great things now. The C-Class isn't your top of the line, so it's not a real fair comparison to the F-Type R in a lot of ways. But since we're driving them both, let's talk about it. This car here has an app. They call it Mercedes Me app. And the Mercedes Me app, you can do a remote activation, remote start. You can track the location of your car. You can do a lot of different things like you can on the Jag Control app. But the thing is, it doesn't come until 2019, and I didn't realize that until after we bought this car. This is an 18, and Mercedes didn't come out with that until 19, so we're kind of hooped on that, unfortunately. So the app isn't available, and it sure is nice to have, because I know on the Jag it allows you to remotely start your vehicle when it's really cold out now. By the way, it's minus 18 degrees Celsius right now, which is very, very cold. And that's actual temperature. They say with the breeze, because there's a light breeze, it says it's equivalent to minus 24. So it's a chilly day out here. It's nice to have the remote start. But let's take a look under the hood what this thing looks like here. I'm gonna pop this. Pull that. All right. Just a quick looky-loo. And there we have it. This is the brains of the operation. This is the heart and the muscle between a C300 car. Obviously not a whole lot of power lurking under there. You've got about 240 horsepower, but it does very, very well cruising down the road. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. All right, let's go for a rip. All right, let's get in. All right, and there it is. So you can see here it says minus 15.5, but that's not totally, I don't know how accurate that is. So say hi to my cameraman here today. Little Marcus, my son, he's here to come along for the ride. Okay, well, let's look around the cabin. I would say I'm gonna do a quick assessment from an F-Type owner's perspective on this car. First of all, I'm gonna say, so it's pretty generic. There's lots of plastic, and I don't expect it to hold a candle to the F-Type R's finishing, although it's not bad. This is nicer than the CLA for sure. Then as you see, we've got some nice brushed aluminum trim throughout. That's a nice touch. And quite frankly, even though this is a C-Class, almost a base C-Class, it has finishing that is almost on par with the F-Type. The F-Type has a little bit more of that kind of leather feel and leather throughout. So the F-Type is a higher feel, high quality feel compared to this. But in terms of the overall aesthetics, with the Mercedes, I would say it's almost nicer. And certainly once you step into the C63S, it feels even more dressed up. And a lot of it, I think, is just, you know, they use a lot of the piano black finishing here and throughout. You know, you see that just like you do in the Jag, but there's more of it here. You've got more brushed aluminum look here, leather wrapped steering wheel. And I know from a color perspective, you can order any colors in any car, but this car, with this white interior, as you can see, like even looking back there, you've got kind of a combination of white and black. I would say no doubt about it, with the white interior on the blue exterior, it's a very, very pretty and attractive color combination. So I really do like it from that perspective. I love the Jag. It looks very kind of Batmobile. It's dark gray on black interior. It's very stealthy. You know, so it kind of depends on the mood, but this is a very cheery place to ride. So I'll comment on a couple other things I noticed after driving the Mercedes a little bit from previous drives. And like I said, I haven't been driving it a whole lot, but I will say that it uses this other little shifter right here. This is your shifter to put the car in gear. As you can see right there, right now we're in park, and you gotta either pull it up, pull it down, and whatever it is to get it into the appropriate gear. So I put it up, and it throws it into reverse. I put it neutral, see it's in neutral, and pull it one more time, now we're in drive, you see? So then one more, we're back in neutral, and if you push the button, now we're back in park. Seems really straightforward, I know, doesn't it? But it's not very intuitive, because after coming out of the Jaguar and actually driving a lot of other cars, I've actually made this mistake with all these controls on the steering wheel, and maybe I just need to get used to it, but with all of these controls all over, you've got your signal, you've got your control here for your tilt and whatnot, you've got your paddle shifters tucked away behind here, and of course your gear lever. You've got a lot going on, and here's your windshield washer fluid. So here, you turn that, and you got that going on, you see? But I've made the mistake where I thought, because on other cars, that windshield washer thing is actually located over on this side, and I've accidentally, trying to activate the wipers, thrown this in reverse while driving down the road. I'm cruising along doing 30, 40, 50 kilometers an hour, and I toggle a control lever, and it is trying to going for a reverse. Yikes. I don't know. I thought, did I break the car or what? It just seems a little bit not intuitive for me. No, it's not rocket science, and I know my wife's gotten used to it, and I think anybody who drives the C-classes regularly would probably appreciate that. That's just the way they are, and it seems like a simple thing, but I've made that mistake a few times. Like, I find almost every time I'm in here, I activate the wrong lever, and I go to give the flick right there, and I go to give the flick right here, thinking I'm activating the washers or the wipers, but I'm not. So that's something I noticed it took some getting used to. Another thing I noticed here, this is much better display than you'll find in the Jaguar. Now this has controls down here. You have this and you have this, and you can activate all these fun things here like this, and we can go navigation, or we can go over to vehicle right there, click into that, and it just looks prettier. It's overall a nicer display, and the interface is definitely, you could feel it's leagues newer, better than it is in the F-Type. The F-Type display and the interface isn't, I mean, it's a little bit older. One thing I will give kudos to on the Jag is, even as good as this is, and this has the 360 degree. So let's activate that, I'll show you. You see the 360 degree camera is great. Like, the quality of the picture is absolutely sublime. And this is a beautiful thing. As you move, you can see that moving along. Better graphics and all of that. For sure, the display is a lot better, and this interface is a lot nicer in the Mercedes. But the Jag has touchscreen, where this one, surprisingly, is not. As you see here, I can touch this all I want, and nothing's going on but the rent. So it seems like a little give and take. I would imagine as you step up into once you get into the E-Class, S-Class cars and the newer generation stuff, it'll all be far more modernized, and you'll have a better display. As a matter of fact, the newer cars now have much larger displays, and you no longer have analog gauges in current generation Mercedes. So you have full digital and a lot bigger displays. So things have gotten a lot better here, whereas Jag kind of kept things a little simpler, more conventional. Even though they went with a digital display in the new F-Type right here, it still has that overall same pod, and the overall feel is still the same. Even in the console of the F-Type is still very much the same on the current generation as it is on my generation, which is I have an 18. So some just little nickel and dime things I thought I'd mention with this. But let's go for a quick spin, and we'll talk about the overall drive of this car. So driving along in this car, I find that it's a lot, it's not as refined as you get in like an E-Class. I drove an E-Class before we bought the C-Class for my wife. We did test drive an E-Class cabriolet, so it was like a coupe cabriolet car. It was a beautiful car, E400 I believe it was, and the ride was leagues better than it is in here. But this is fine. It's certainly, you know, it feels like a lower end Mercedes, but it still doesn't, like, it still does a great job. Like, it's still, the ride quality is solid, although it's not in line, you know, with the premium Benzes. It still does a pretty good job of soaking up the bumps. It does a lot better job than the Jag at soaking up the bumps. We know the F-Types, if you have one, or if you've ever experienced one, or if you've test driven one, and if not, I'll share with you the fact that the F-Type suspension and the ride quality is excellent for a sports car, in the sense of it's going to grip the corners when you want it to, but it's not a smooth ride, and it's very jarring actually at some times. It's not punishing in the sense of it doesn't feel like it's rattling itself loose, but it's very jarring and abrupt, and it's a very taut suspension in the F-Type. This is a little bit more compliant. You know, it does a better job of eating up the bumps. So I find it's a little nicer ride if you just want to get from A to B without too much shake, rattle, and roll. Say you have a sore back that day, this is probably a better car to drive in than the F-Type. But even the sound volume, you get a little bit of road noise off of this car. I don't know if you hear it on the camera, but you can hear a little bit of that road noise. Kind of get more off the wheels. There's a little bit of wind noise through the windows. It's not whistling. It's not like an old Dodge or a Chevy pickup truck. You know, it doesn't whistle along, but you can just hear a general noise, an ambient noise level that's elevated you know, when you're driving at highway speeds. It's a nice vehicle to drive. It has a decent acceleration, you know, with 240 horse. You know, you're talking 0 to 60 times in that 6 seconds. So, you know, it's not a rocket ship, but it has more than enough get up and go to enjoy and have fun along the way. So, you know, from an F-Type owner's perspective, yes, this is a softer car. It feels dressed down. You know, it doesn't quite have the same level of finishing, in my opinion. You know, they do focus a little more on the technology here. I find in the Mercedes, it does feel a little bit kind of more addressed, you know, with the interface, like I said. But I think from an F-Type owner's perspective, getting in here is a nice relief. It's a nice drive, but I think it's pretty easily recognizable that this car does not have the same level of focus. It's not the car that's hard charging like an F-Type R would be. If you want that in the C-Class, you're gonna have to step in the C63S, which I actually coincidentally drove a couple years ago. The way it stands out, the fine gentleman at the local Mercedes dealer who sold us this car also facilitated a test drive in the C63S AMG that we drove a year before. And if I can leave on one note, the car is absolutely spectacular. Any AMG Mercedes is nothing to scoff at. They're all exceptional. I've driven a bunch of them, the CLS AMG 63, S-Class 63. I've driven a couple different generations of the C63 AMGs. You know, I've tried a bunch, AMGs, non-AMG cars, and the AMG cars are where it's at if you really like the performance. I wouldn't go half stop on that. I would go all the way in. If you want to drive a car that has the real performance, you got to go all in with the AMG cars. And not the halfway house. I mean, even Mercedes has like the C43 AMG. And while those are fun and peppy, if you really want, it's the same thing as the BMW, guys. You guys know, I had a 335i BMW, and that was a twin turbo, straight 6 engine, and it was a great drive. I really enjoyed it. It was a great performer. The big thing with the 335 was very tunable, so you could make it potentially faster than a M3, but an M3 is a far better car, more dialed in. It has the better differential. It has more horsepower out of the box. Suspension's better. It's a better car through and through, and the same thing goes with the AMG Mercedes. The C43 is more kind of middle of the road, more like a 335, and I think that's who they targeted at. There's people that like that halfway house level of performance. But the C63 AMG, C63S Coupe AMG is the way it's at. That's where you really want to get in if you want to be serious. But even more specifically, like I said, my personal favorite in the Benz world is the CLS AMG cars or the E-Class AMG cars. Those are my two favorite. They stand out for me even more than the C-Class AMG, just because they're more substantial, they're more power, they're just more of everything. They're the pinnacle of the brand for sure. So without babbling on, guys, I know some of you guys have watched the channel and you guys like to understand what some of these other cars are all about. This isn't a formal review. I'm going to do formal reviews on the other channel. I just thought I'd glance over, and since I was out driving in my wife's car, from an F-Type owner's perspective, this car's far slower, softer, but more easy to live with. It handles better in the winter. It's got skinnier tires. Better tires are outfitted from the factory. So it's far more usable for every single day. You've got rear seats here, obviously, so there's functionality in that regard. You don't have that in the F-Type. It's just a far more day-to-day usable vehicle than you could ever dream of in the F-Type. But when you really want to get down to some serious fun driving, the F-Type R, I would not change a bit. And if any of you guys out there are serious about buying a great sporting coupe, what can I say? Right now, in my opinion, if you want something that you might be able to consider driving in the winter, possibly poor weather conditions, but you want one of the hardest charging coupes out there right now, the F-Type is still a great way to go. But definitely get the SVR in the older generation, or the R or the R in the current generation cars. So definitely want to look at those if that's your game. But here we're going to roll up right away to my favorite lunch stop. I want to show you guys the place that I like to go once in a while when I just need a good old-fashioned, real greasy set of eats. Let's take a look. Okay, so we had to actually come way to this little hamlet they call Sherwood Park. I live in the city of Edmonton. The Sherwood Park is southeast of the city, kind of almost connected really now. But this Donair stop is one of my favorite spots, and it's in Sherwood Park. So let's roll up. I'll show you. It's a nice little hole in the wall. It's not pretty. It's very unassuming, but I'll tell you right now, they truly make the best Donairs. If you guys like Donairs, this is the place you gotta come, for sure, no doubt about it. And there it is, famous Donairs, the best place for a Donair in the Edmonton area. That's where I like to go. You know, it's the Alberta advantage. Actually, this Mercedes is driven by a skip the dish driver. That's a pretty slick ride.
Hey, you're going.
Oh, that was way too filling. I'm not gonna lie. Just for the record, we did not eat inside because you're actually not allowed to here where we're at right now because of the restrictions. And we actually had a quick munch outside. I scarfed that thing down for sure. Me and my son, we shared one there. It was just, we were both kind of just somewhat hungry, but we fired it back. Didn't eat in the Benz, but we definitely didn't eat in the store because you can't really eat anywhere indoors right now. That's just the rules with everything that's going on right now in the world. So yeah, so anyway, that was a good stop. Let's go maybe take a look and see if we can get the car washed right now too, because this car is there's so much salt on the roads now. The city's throwing all the salt and sand and everything down. It's nice to give it a quick clean once in a while. So let's go see if the car wash is open. Boy, this thing actually has some pretty good get up and go. It doesn't hit you like a ton of bricks, but it's a steady little swoosh and off you go into the sunset. So it's a pretty fun little ride. Once you start pulling the levers, I can see why it can be addicting. It gives you just as much fun as practicality, for sure. It's a good blend. So anyhow, let's hit the freeway again and see what's in store. I see a lot of cops out here today. They're everywhere. It's almost like a wasp nest. You know, in the summertime you see a wasp nest, and you always see these little wasps. Even in the middle of summertime, there's a little bit of activity. You see a few wasps flying around, and then you give it a hit, and also massive amount of wasps. So that's kind of what it feels like. You know, you get a couple speeders flying by, all of a sudden lights everywhere, and there's lots of seems like there's lots of police out today. I'm not sure why. I mean, other than, well, I do know why. I mean, it's always ticket time around Edmonton, but I think it's just one of those things. You know, as taxes, you know, they said they're holding off on raising property taxes and whatnot in the city. So instead, they have to try to grab it somewhere else. So send more police out to the field, catch speeders and people violating the law in other ways, I guess. Oh no, it's a Volvo. Usually Volvos are pretty reliable. That's kind of odd. Maybe he ran out of gas or something. I was really more expecting to see a 335 BMW or something hanging off the back of that tow truck. Just being honest. Oh, and look, see another one of our fine photo radar camera units up there, parked on every overpass in the city. Don't know what's going on here, but Now you film me. You film me. Oh no! What do we have there? We have the Nissan Coupe. So after a great day of driving around, reviewing my wife's car, what do you guys think about the C-Class? Is it something that you guys have thought about maybe buying at some point? The AMG, even the C63S, what do you think about that versus, say, the F-Type? Have you ever thought about buying the C63S or any other C-Class over the F-Type if you maybe either own an F-Type or maybe have considered buying another car to purchase? You know, drop the line below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that. As well as, guys, you know what? Be sure to drop a line anyway in the comment section, because I might just grab one of your comments on the next video and we'll answer your question if you get chosen. Hope to see you guys in the next one. Catch you real soon. Bye-bye.